Lore is a very fascinating part of every game, and in Hoyo games, it's dark and goes hard. But it is also the reason why we love our favorite characters. But even though this is an essential aspect of the game, we often neglect how it relates to the gameplay. And in this series, it is my mission to shine a light on why the characters are the way they are. Namely, through the very core of the game, the path system. You see, every character follows a path that associates with their faction. For example, just about everyone from the Shinjo is a Hunt Path follower, and everyone from the Astral Express is a follower of the Trailblaze. However, even in these factions, each character's gameplay reflects a different path. Like how Himeko is erudition and how Jiaoqiu is nihility. Not everyone is as straightforward as Fei Xiao and Yanqing, where their lore path follows their in-game one. Most people simply explain this away as not every path being playable, so characters just get assigned one. But I disagree, because Hoyo does not do things for no reason. I believe that every character follows two paths. The first being the path of their faction that I described earlier, and the second being their in-game path that I will be referring to as a type. This path represents a major aspect of the character's life. In the last video of this series, I promised that I would explain to you why our general is erudition and why Fu Xuan is preservation. So let's get into this, shall we? Honkai Star Rail in-game paths explained. Alright, our highly requested stoic general and master strategist of the Shinjo, the divine foresight Jing Yuan. The erudition type character following the path of the hunt. As a Shinjo native and long life species, Jing Yuan has lived a long time, especially for a general. As it is stated that generals don't tend to live that long, even if they are a long life species, such as the nature of constant war. But our general isn't that simple. He does things in a way that is unique to the other generals of the Shinjo. Instead of charging into battle head-on and obliterating every obstacle with overwhelming power, he tends to sit back and strategize. This method of conflict resolution has always been rather controversial over the centuries and has earned Jing Yuan the name of the dozing general, since he is seemingly idle and rarely deals with issues by himself. But he has also earned the title of Divine Foresight, since his strategies are akin to knowing the future. But understanding why he is like this is the key to comprehending the reason why his life reflects the path of erudition. When Jing Yuan speaks about his troubles, he talks about two things: the ever-arising issues on the Shinjo Luofu and the passage of time. And this explains it all. Let me explain. In the war dance, so many things went wrong at the same time, and somehow Jing Yuan managed to devise a strategy to solve them all at once. He had to solve the Hule issue with the Borisin, the Vidyadhara's Elder issue, the Yanqing Yunli issue, watch over the war dance, all while being under investigation by Fei Xiao and Huaiyan. And on top of that, he had to find a way to keep the Astral Express in the loop. And he did all of this by barely leaving his base. Now, you might think that this is him simply micromanaging and shrugging off his duties, but that would be completely wrong. Because you have to understand that Jing Yuan is a grandmaster chess player, and this comes up multiple times with him. He defeated Yanqing in his trailer and defeated Fu Xuan in his story after she had predicted his next 48 moves. Mind you, Fu Xuan can see the future to an extent. Now, other than the fact that this guy's IQ is on a whole nother level, he thoroughly understands the role of each piece on his side, and the war dance was just one big game of chess. Stay with me here, we're gonna talk about chess. Jing Yuan and Hule were the king pieces. Normally, the king pieces don't move very much because if exposed, he can get checkmated rather easily. But what is unique about the king is that once a game, he can make a move that shifts two pieces at once, called castling, where he moves his rook or castle by himself to divert his opponent's attack to a different side of the board. Doesn't that sound familiar? Because that's exactly what he did at the war dance with the Sky Splitter being his rook. He baited Hule into rushing there, not knowing that he moved the day of the war dance back, thus diverting his attack and sacrificing the rook! This is not the only chess metaphor in this story either. Yan Qing and Yun Li were the two knights bouncing from ship to ship and pushing Hu Lei into a corner for the queen piece Fei Xiao to deliver the checkmate. You will notice that Fei Xiao was everywhere in this story, really carrying the team. But that is the very nature of the queen piece. Fei Xiao is fast, strong, and versatile and can quickly move from the Luofu to the Sky Splitter, and just like the queen piece can move from one edge of the board to the other in every direction. Now, even though Jing Yuan is just as strong, he isn't known for being fast, and he doesn't force himself to be. He understands the strengths and weaknesses of every piece on the board, and he is the chess master behind each and every move. But how does this relate to him being the erudition type? Well, the Aeon of Erudition, Nous, is basically a giant supercomputer aimed at solving the ever-present problems of the universe that, even though sits still, is well capable of making their presence known in multiple places at once. Do you get it now? This is Jing Yuan's entire motive. He rarely shows up to battle himself, just like the king piece rarely participates in checkmating his opponent. But he is well capable of extending his influence throughout the Luofu as if he is in multiple places at once, solving the ever-present problems on the Luofu with his divine foresight, just like Nous. Hunt, erudition. And speaking of erudition, let's move on to the potential successor of Jing Yuan, the master diviner given a third eye by Nous themselves, Fu Xuan. This one's a lot simpler, I promise. Fu Xuan is also a Xianzhou native with a lot of years ahead of her, and her job is to calculate the root of the Xianzhou Luofu. Now, even though it was the Aeon of Erudition that gave her the Omnitia, she is a preservation type character, and I will explain why. Fu Xuan's Omnitia does cause her pain and is a big part of her life, but Fu Xuan naturally accepts that with knowledge comes pain, and doesn't really struggle with it at all. Instead, I would argue that the bigger part of her life would be her life's goal and the goal of the entire Divination Commission, to predict the future and to process and preserve information for the Xianzhou. You see, the Divination Commission's job is very similar to Elio's role for the Stellaron Hunters. They give the general a peek into what the future holds to allow them to choose the best possible way to proceed. But unlike Elio, the diviners are not slaves to destiny. They believe that different possibilities lead to different outcomes in most cases, but some fates are in fact unavoidable. So they're Elio, but more nuanced and less extreme, because their actions do in fact matter. They quite literally hold the past and future of the ships in their hands, and the choices they make, even if the predetermined future is defeat, will impact the severity of the losses. For example, Fu Xuan's teacher Jing Tian was well aware of the fact that his life would end because of her, but took her in anyway because it was preordained for her to take up the mantle of Master Diviner. When he revealed this to her, she was understandably infuriated and left. But years later, a decision that she proposed to Jing Yuan to minimize the losses taken on the Xianzhou Fanghu summoned a Lux arrow that damaged 1/5 of the ship and unfortunately claimed Jing Tian's life. So that predetermined future came true. Such is the work of the Divination Commission. And as followers of the hunt, sacrifices are sometimes necessary for victory. And for Fu Xuan, no sacrifice is too great for the sake of gaining clearer sight and ensuring the Xianzhou's safety. She is aware of the fact that she cannot protect from everything, and divination does not reveal all details. But for the grand sake of the Luofu, she can and will dedicate everything she has to protecting it. The Omnitia is just a tool that she uses to achieve the overarching goal of preservation. And that is why she is Hunt Path Preservation type. Once again, I hope you are all enjoying this series so far, because I really think shining a light on how lore connects to gameplay is something no one really does. But it really deserves to be talked about because not enough games do it. So, who do you want me to talk about next? Leave me a comment, and whoever gets the most upvotes will be my next subject. Some of you were hyping up Boot Hill, others want Argenti, Welt, Himiko, Danhung. But what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace, y'all.